Wonder who Ted will meet. Well, who Ted will need to be next. Let's meet Ted, everyone. Okay. Take a boring white wall, some ketchup and mustard, and a little bear with a lot of imagination. And watch out, it's time for Artist Ted to make an entrance. Too bad the new boy at school is not impressed. That's okay, Ted will just keep trying. After all, someone has to brighten things up, and guess what? That will be Ted. Okay, let's meet Ted, guys. Artist Ted. Ted looked everywhere, but he couldn't find one. And since Ted couldn't find an artist, he became an artist. Every artist needs an imagination. I have one of those, said Artist Ted, and he imagined a monkey juggling stinky socks. Now if only I had a paintbrush. Artist Ted didn't have any paint, so he made some of that too. How brilliant! And you can see he's using some mustard, some ketchup. Is that blueberry jam? And some toothpaste? Oh my. He looked around at the white walls and he was inspired. Artist Ted painted and painted and painted. His mom was impressed. What is that? She asked. It's my masterpiece, he called. I call it green. It isn't green, said his mother. Do we have any pea soup? Asked Artist Ted. Go to school, said his mother. School time. At school, Artist Ted walked down the long white hallway. He was inspired. He painted and painted and painted at school. Principal Bickham was impressed. What is that? He asked. I call it Principal Bickham, said Artist Ted. I don't look like that, said Principal Bickham, and he turned bright red. And I think it's with anger. A masterpiece, said Artist Ted. Go to class, said Principal Bickham. That's the name of my other masterpiece, said Artist Ted. Go to class. Principal Bickham was speechless. No need to thank me, said Artist Ted. It's all in a day's work for a true artist. Artist Ted went to Mrs. Johnson's class. There was a new student in class. His name was Pierre, and he was very quiet. Guys, that's Pierre. Pierre wore a beautiful white shirt and sat right in front of Artist Ted. Artist Ted was inspired. He painted and painted and painted. Pierre was not impressed. He frowned and did not speak. A mime, said Artist Ted, and he waved at Pierre. Pierre frowned even harder and sank down in his seat. Well, he's not very friendly, is he? At lunch, Artist Ted sat by Pierre. Pierre poked his potatoes with a fork and pushed them into a big pile. A sculpture, said Artist Ted, and he helped Pierre make a masterpiece. Pierre was not impressed. He frowned again. He stomped his feet and jumped up and down. A dancer, said Artist Ted, and he danced all around the room. He finished with a gigantic bow. When he stood up, Pierre was gone. "An escape artist," said Ted. "Wow." Artist Ted looked everywhere for Pierre. Mrs. Johnson and her class looked for Pierre too. Principal Biggin ran this way and that. "Help!" he called. "Call the weatherman, call the gardener, call the library, just call somebody." But Artist Ted was already there. He found Pierre high in the tree. Just then, the weatherman arrived with the gardener and the librarians. They watched Pierre's teardrops splash onto the grass. "At least he's not snowing," said the weatherman. "Could he water the scrubs too?" asked the gardener. "Hope he doesn't get the books wet," said the librarians. He is creating a ruckus, everyone. Artist Ted looked around the playground. He saw the white wall of the school building and he was inspired. But he needed help. He told Mrs. Johnson and he told her students. They painted and painted and painted. "Welcome, friend." At last they finished. "A work of art," said Artist Ted. Just then, someone grabbed his paintbrush. It was Pierre. He looked at the wall and frowned. Pierre painted and painted and painted. At last he finished too. Pierre stopped frowning. "Welcome, friends." A masterpiece. Look at his drawing, everyone. It's so cute. Pierre smiled and waved. "You are a true artist," said Artist Ted. "You can keep the brush." That night, Ted put away his paints and went to bed knowing he had done a good job. There are so many wonderful arts to explore, he thought. How could anyone try them all? Ted did not have a clue. But I could get one, he thought, if I had a magnifying glass. That's right, and that glass will lead him straight to Miss Mona Lisa. And ta-da! The end. What a beautiful story, everyone.